Hello, I'm Tony Guida. This is My New York. April is Jazz Appreciation Month, a celebration sponsored by the Smithsonian Institution. No one alive has appreciated jazz more passionately than my guest. He is Dan Morgenstern, winner of 8 Grammys, a National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Master, and the former director of the Institute for Jazz Studies at Rutgers University. Dan has a zillion other credits, but what you're going to appreciate most about him are his tales from a jazz life well lived. Stay tuned. The word legend is very much overused, but it applies today, literally, to my guest, Dan Morgenstern. It is so good to have you here.
Tony, it's a pleasure to be here.
And you were just telling me before the tape rolled that April now is 70 years since you first came to America.
That's right, yes. Seems like only yesterday.
and began visiting, by the way, right away at 17 or 18, visiting the jazz clubs on 52nd.
52nd Street, yes. You know, some people want to see the Empire State Building. I wanted to see 52nd Street.
The Three Deuces and all those great places. Oh. Dan, we should probably start by taking the temperature of this art form, jazz. There's a very popular movie out right now, La La Land, and in it, the male lead is dreaming of being having his own club. He's a jazz piano player, and he's telling Emma Stone, Ryan Gosling is, that jazz is dying. Is jazz dying?
Well, the first time I encountered that proposition that jazz was dying was an article in Esquire magazine in 1957. So It's been dying for a long time. It's not dying, and I don't think it ever will die, just as classical music is. Nobody is suggesting that Mozart and Beethoven are dying. You know, I mean, they've been dead for a long time, but that their music is gone.
Sure.
Jazz is very much alive today. I checked in Hot House, which is this monthly guide to jazz in the greater New York area, and I counted 74 venues for live jazz in the month of March, that was.
Wow. It's not on the radar, perhaps, as much as it should be. And of course, when you talk about jazz in this city, there is the extraordinary jazz at Lincoln Center, on Columbus Circle. I mean, that's just a remarkable venue.
Yeah, well, that was, of course, Wynton Marsalis who started that, and it is indeed a remarkable achievement. Nobody would have thought that jazz would establish itself really at the top level of cultural institutions in New York City.
Right.
And that's to Wynton's great credit.
You know, when I said not so evident on the radar jazz, you look at a program like the Grammys, which just was on television, and jazz is almost invisible there. If you go down the list of Grammy winners, once you get past Adele and Beyonce, and I think it was on the list, it's like the first jazz award is the 31st Grammy, and I'm not even sure they showed that one on television.
They don't show it on TV anymore, or they haven't in a long time. I was active in the Recording Academy for quite a while. I'm still a member, but I'm really annoyed at the way they're treating jazz. No, it's among the awards that are given not on TV, but in the afternoon when they give out the technical awards and all those things. So it's kind of, it's second-class citizen thing.
Well, I'll take your word for it that it's not dying. I don't think it's dying. I always thought that was a misperception. But you may have to look for it a little bit. Not in this city, but you may have to look for it a little bit. Anyway, let's talk about this year. This is a fascinating year to be celebrating jazz, 2017, because there are at least 4 anniversaries going on here. This year is the anniversary of the first jazz recording. It is also the year, if these 3 artists were still alive, they'd be 100. So it's the year of the centennial of the birth of Ella Fitzgerald, Dizzy Gillespie, and Buddy Rich. I think we've heard of those folks. Their names are kind of popular. Let's talk first about the first jazz recording. Tell me about it and this group called the Original Dixieland Jazz Band.
Well, the Original Dixieland Jazz Band was 5 guys from New Orleans. They were still in their 20s. They had come from New Orleans to Chicago and made a little stir there. And then they were brought to New York, where they opened at a place called Reisenweber's, which was on Columbus Circle, and it was a fairly high-class dance place. It wasn't, there wasn't any such thing as a jazz club then or anything like that. But they were a sensation with the dancers. That's what it was, dance music. That's how jazz established itself.
Now these are 5 guys, as you say, 5 guys from New Orleans. They're all white.
All white, and they were all in their 20s, yes. And the fact that they were white, it's a little ironic that they were the first to make jazz records, but they were not the first to record what was then a contemporary music. James Reese Europe, who was a wonderful band leader, he was a composer, he was an arranger, he was a ragtime guy. Ragtime preceded jazz. Yeah. And ragtime, James Reese Europe's band recorded for Victor, which was the big label, in 1913. Made 3 12-inch 78s. One of them has a wonderful drum solo on it, which is the closest thing that comes to jazz. So there were recordings by African-American musicians before the ODJB recorded, but they were the first jazz band to make records.
Okay.
And they were very successful. That first record, Livery Stable Blues, which had some animal imitations and and the trumpet and stuff. And the other side, the original Dixieland one-steps, which really was a great piece of music. Very successful records. They sold about 1 million, which was a lot in those days.
Wow, in 1917, sure. Yeah. Dan mentioned the name of it, the first jazz recording by the Original Dixieland Jazz Band, the Dixieland one-step. Here's part of it. Sounds pretty good, even 100 years later.
Well, it was surprisingly well recorded. Victor had the best recording technology, and this is before electrical recording, which didn't come in until about 5-6 years later. It was all acoustic. You recorded into a big horn, and naturally it wasn't as, it didn't cover as much of the spectrum, audio spectrum as it, but it sounds surprisingly good. And the clarinetist, Larry Shields, he was really excellent. To me, he was the best guy in that band. He was terrific.
What, you mentioned that they sold so well, and we're talking 1917 and the years after. What did a record cost in those days?
I think they cost, for a 10-inch 78, it was 75 cents, which was quite a bit
of money. That's a lot of money in 1917. Yeah. So that's the Original Dixieland Jazz Band. How long were they popular?
They stayed together until around 1920. That's when they made their last records. And then they kind of drifted apart. They were reunited in 1936, recorded again for Victor, and were also featured on the March of Time, which was a weekly kind of news releases before TV. TV killed the March of Time.
That's too bad. TV killed a lot of things, including me sometimes. Let's talk about a little more about 2017 as the centennial of the birth of these three great artists, and National Jazz Appreciation Month. One of the things this celebration this month is concentrating on is female vocalists, and who better to name in that category but Ella Fitzgerald, who, if she were alive, would be 100 today. What I found remarkable then, and why I envy your encyclopedic knowledge of this art form and the people in it. I didn't know this before. Ella, with that magnificent voice, it was apparently almost an afterthought to her, because she was going to she appeared at the Apollo on a what do you call it, amateur night, and she was going to dance. Right. Tell that story.
Well, it's interesting that the three people we're talking about, Ella and Buddy Rich and Dizzy, they were all great dancers, really. You know, Buddy was a great tap dancer. Ella wanted to be a dancer, and the singing was kind of an afterthought. But it turned out that it wasn't a good idea for her to compete with other dancers at this amateur hour. And so she sang instead, and she was an immediate hit.
I just found that charming that she went there. As important a venue as an amateur night at Apollo was, she went there with the intention of dancing, and then there was apparently an act that was so good dancing, she thought, oh, I can't do this, and she just decides to sing. Yeah. And I mean, Ella Fitzgerald is one of the great voices, magnificent voices of all time, and it seems like it's just an accident.
Yeah. Well, she had, of course, been listening to singers on records. She was really, her first influence was Connie Boswell, who was the lead voice of the Boswell sisters, who were very popular at the time. And from New Orleans, by the way.
Right. Ella, by the way, grew up in Yonkers, the very, very brutal childhood.
Bad childhood, yes.
We'll talk a little bit about that, but let's listen to a little vintage Ella Fitzgerald.
Somewhere there's music, how faint the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon. The darkest night would shine if you would come to me soon. Until you will, I still my heart high the moon.
Right after that, she starts scatting, which was one of her.
And we're going to come back to that. We were both just saying what a brutal childhood she had in Yonkers, and wound up in a reform school. And
her mother died when she was very young. She was in an orphanage for a while.
Yeah, and at the orphanage, I'm sorry, was beaten and gets away, and by 17 or 18, well, at 17, she's at the amateur night at the Apollo. By 19, she's singing with the Chick Webb Band. Yeah. I mean, incredible.
Making her first records.
Yeah. And a couple of years later, she becomes famous for a record I don't happen to like, but a Tasket made her famous. But you touched on scatting, and she's so well known for that. Where does that come from?
John, like almost everything in jazz, comes from Louis. And he first did it on a recording in 1925 called Heebie Jeebies. And he says, he claims that he forgot the lyrics so that he lost the sheet, which is not really true. That's sort of like a made-up story. But he's the father of scat. Yeah.
Well, she, if she learned it from him, she quickly attained a doctorate in how to do this.
And of course, later on they recorded together. They made beautiful records together, Ella and Louis.
Yeah. We're talking about Ella scatting. Here's Ella scatting. Isn't that so? I want to applaud. I mean, it's just...
Her time is so great. I mean, this is one thing that all the people we're going to be talking about had in common. It's wonderful time.
Sense of
That's so
tempo.
essential in jazz.
But I don't know. I don't even know how to frame the question. What she's doing there is, in effect, turning her voice into a musical instrument, a trumpet, trombone, whatever you want to call it. And not only playing notes, but improvising notes. It's a jazz solo with a voice, I guess. You could explain it better than I do.
No, but she was definitely influenced by jazz instrumentalists, and she used her voice and it's like you said, like an instrument. And she was, she was a great natural improviser. She didn't have much musical training, but it was all natural, and that's true of we're going to talk about Buddy Rich. That's true about him too.
I mean, she just seemed to come to music as an escape from a really Dickensian kind of life up to that point, and at 19 to be singing with a famous band like Chick Webb. I mean, it's just, I guess.
Well, she actually was responsible for making the Chick Webb band famous. It was well known in Harlem. He was a wonderful drummer, and he was actually an inspiration to Buddy Rich. So he was the king of the Savoy Ballroom, but it was pretty much local fame. But Ella, when she started recording with this band, she brought the band up to national prominence.
Wow.
And he loved her. They had a very close, and he died young, Chick.
Yeah,
she took over the band when he died.
It was called the Ella
Fitzgerald and her famous orchestra.
And her famous orchestra. And she's what, 20 or something, 21? Oh, just marvelous. There's a Latin, I remember some of my Latin, and there's a Latin word, ingenium, and what it means is natural, inborn talent. And Ella Fitzgerald had ingenium.
She also had wonderful diction. She was great with lyrics. She never dropped a word or mispronounced anything, and she really knew how to put a lyric across, in addition to the scatting. So she had many levels.
Well, one of the joys of talking to you is that you knew all these people that we're talking about. She was a very shy person. Tell us a little about Ella the person.
Yeah, I encountered Ella a few times. We were together on a television show at WNYC, I think.
Really?
Something.
Really?
Yeah. And so going back, she had a lady manager who was taking care of her, offered me a ride, and this was downtown where WNYC was, and that's when we had a chance to talk a little bit. And she actually wanted me, she was staying at a hotel, and she kind of said, well, would you like to come and have a drink or something? And then the lady who was with us said, no, we can't do that. So That was my chance for, you know, a little intimacy with Ella. Didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
But she was a shy person, and she also was, in spite of her success, and what I'm going to be saying now happened pretty, you know, in the middle of her career when she was touring with Jazz at the Philharmonic, and she happened to be on a bill in Europe where she and Sarah Vaughan were performing on the same night. And one of my musician friends who were on the tour, they were on the plane the next day, and I think this was a performance in England, and she was looking at the newspaper, and there was a review which praised Sarah above her, and she started to cry. So this, you know, she was very sensitive to criticism. Roy Eldridge, the great trumpet player who worked with her for quite a while, the small group, rhythm section and Roy on trumpet, backing her, told me that when he took a solo and got a big hand for something, Ella would say, well, let's drop that.
Well, she was a star.
She was insecure.
Yeah.
But, you know, Norman Granz, who was just one of the truly great jazz promoters, was the one who took her career in hand after she had been recording successfully for Decca label for many years, and Norman had started his own label, and he signed Ella and he became her manager. He put her on the Jazz at the Philharmonic tours, and he really brought her up into stardom. And he's the one who started all the LPs devoted to specific songwriters.
Right. She made
So
albums
the
of
songbooks,
what?
Jerome Kern, George Gershwin,
Right.
Rogers, Harold Arlen, Cole Porter, everything.
Yeah,
And masterly performances.
Well, it's Ella should be celebrated any day of a month, but especially in this month. Let's talk a little bit about you and how you came to this purely American art form. I mean, you were born in, you grew up in Vienna.
I grew up in Vienna.
And
I came to Denmark after the Nazis
Right.
took over in Austria. Came to Denmark, and there it was really when I started. It's during the swing era, and I was born in 1929. So when I was about a little less than 9 years old, Fats Waller was touring Scandinavia, and my mother, God bless her, thought it would be maybe something I would enjoy. He was giving a series of concerts, and it was right near where we lived, and so I saw Fats Waller, and Fats, you know, I mean, I couldn't understand much of what he was singing about, what he was saying, but just his presence, and that he was doing a single. He was just by himself at the piano, but the rhythm, you know, his facial expressions, moved, the eyebrows moved up and down, and so.
And you, at 9, you were hooked.
I was hooked. I wanted records. I already liked listening to a phonograph, and I struggled with the violin a little bit. Never got very far with it. Another instrument might have worked better.
Not the
fiddle is hard.
So so you're hooked on Fats Waller. What a great introduction to jazz.
And Ella, because one of the first records also at the Chick Webb and Ella doing the Dipsy Doodle, which is a little bit like a follow-up to Titska Taska. It's sort of a children's thing, a Dipsy Doodle, you know. It's a silly song, but she was very good in it, and that hooked me in Ella, too.
And so it takes 9 more years, or 8 more years. You finally come to New York at age 17. And apparently the first thing you do, or among the first things you do, is turn on the radio, look for a jazz station, and wind up listening to a guy named Symphony Sid.
Yes.
who I used to listen to. It's marvelous.
No, I was naive. I thought there would be jazz all over the radio in New York City, but it was very hard to find. And I got a hold of Symphony Sid. I found him a little hard to understand.
Yeah, and I grew up in New York, in the Bronx, and I speak English as my native language, and I found Sid a little hard to. Great knowledge, great music he played, but.
But one of the first things I heard on the Symphony Sid show was Dizzy Gillespie's "I Can't Get Started," and I knew Bunny Berrigan's "I Can't Get Started."
Yes,
I already
yes.
knew that record, and I loved it, and it was so different. And that was my introduction to bebop, because Dizzy does "I Can't Get Started," did it slow tempo, and it's very dissonant, harmonically very different from what Bunny did.
Yeah, I can't say that I've heard that, but I can hear the Bunny Berrigan recording playing in my head. I mean, that's a classic. "I Can't Get Started" version of "I Can't Get Started," and we're going to be able to talk a little bit just a bit here about. You're in New York and fairly soon meet Louis Armstrong, who was essentially the inspiration for your career, because of you didn't like what was being written about him. There was a lot of criticism.
Well, later on, when I started writing about jazz, I really started when after I got out of the Army. I was on the GI Bill at Brandeis University, and I became editor of the school paper, so I got a chance to write about jazz, and one of the first things I did was to write about Louis, and
He was a subject of a lot of pretty vicious criticism. I mean, essentially it boiled down to critics calling him an Uncle Tom.
Well, it was a dumb thing, Actually, Louis had been working with big bands from about 1929 on, when he came to New York from Chicago. Even in Chicago, he had some big band experience, and his recordings were very successful. He had a long stretch with Decca, and he was considered the top trumpet player. Harry James won the downbeat poll in 1940 or 41. When he was told that he had won the poll, he said, "That's ridiculous. Louis Armstrong should have won." That's how highly regarded he was among his peers. But then when he switched to a small group, the All-Stars, after World War II, the critics started dumping on him, and it became really very reprehensible. I mean, there was a guy in downbeat who, they were just really unfair.
Well, I think it inspired you to, you already have a great love for the music, and you kind of started writing in response to them. But I'm going to ask you to hold your answer, because I'm so grateful Dan has agreed to come back next week, and we're going to talk more about Louis Armstrong and the criticism. I mean, even to his theme song, "Sleepy Time Down South," which was misrepresented. But there's so much more to talk about with Dan, with Louis Armstrong, Dizzy, and Buddy, and the Count, and the Duke, and Dan knows all of their last names, and we'll see you next week.